So before we even address this subject, I feel that we have to lay down some groundwork here because the first thing that happens when you start talking about the thou shalt nots of the Bible, people just immediately want to say, don't judge. And they cite the Bible verse, Matthew 7, 1 through 3, that says, judge not that ye be not judged. So we need to talk about that verse and hopefully gain a better understanding. So the wrong kind of judging is when you try to mete out justice. You play God when you say things like, well, you know, so-and-so did such and such, so I say they deserve this, that, or the other. Well, with those words, you've essentially passed sentence. When you presume to know who deserves what, you're playing judge. And worse, if you're in the mix trying to make sure, by manipulating circumstances, that the person gets exactly what you think they deserve. That's judging. Sad part is that most people like that I've ever come across are usually guilty of the very thing they're accusing someone else of. It would be funny if it weren't so appalling. It's like the fox pointing and laughing at the cat's bushy tail. And that's why the verse, judge not that ye be not judged, is in the Bible. But we've allowed this crooked and antichrist society to reinterpret that verse for us. Now the whole world is in deception, thinking that judge not means no one should be able to discern right from wrong. They're calling that judging. Like maybe we should just all cover our eyes and make believe that sin and wrongdoing doesn't exist. Well, Jesus doesn't want his people to be gullible and buying into every deception out there. In fact, he said, be wise as serpents, yet harmless as doves. That means we're going to have to know God's law and how to define it to others, without passing sentence, of course, because that's up to Almighty Judge. Same thing any good lawyer does. Familiarizes himself with laws and statutes, and then enters the courtroom ready to give an answer. But all the sentencing is, of course, up to the judge. So we're living in a time now, a time that was spoken of by Isaiah the prophet, who said, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. They put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Isaiah 5:20. That's the sad shape of our country right now, that we can have a big, burly man, athletic, declare himself a female and go join an all-women's college and compete in some field and track sport and beat out all the females, steal their scholarships. Nobody says anything because, hey, we can't judge. That's judging. That's failing to discern right from wrong. So, the short answer to this question is, of course, no. God does not condone homosexuality. The Bible does not condone homosexuality. But I'm going to cover some related points and answer some of the more basic questions, and in hopes of adding more substance to this message. One of the questions I've heard pretty frequently is, well, why is homosexuality such a grievous sin to God, like more than the other sins? Straightforward answer. Because it goes against his natural order, against his natural design for a man and woman to join together physically and procreate. Homosexuality is Satan's attempt to mock God's design and cancel that plan for procreation. Well, why is God and Christians trying to tell me who to love? Well, God actually encourages you to love all people, your neighbors as yourself, and even to love your enemies. It's lust that he warns us against. Lust is one of the 7 deadly sins. Lust is not love. And though sometimes we humans confuse the two, God can discern the difference. And of course, he understands that, there's sometimes exists an emotional bond between members of the same sex, causing them to have a very special rapport. In 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 26, David lamented the death of Jonathan, his brother-in-law, who died in battle. David was very emotionally connected to Jonathan. So at his funeral, he said these words,